I don't know if you're like me, but I can think back upon the recovery process or even just the maturity process of growing from being, a young adult into adulthood and adulting, as we so desperately as a society have coined a funny term of adulting. There was a moment when we were moving from California. It was probably 2 months post D-Day, and Samantha had decided that we were moving and we were relocating, and we kind of had to. We had lots of issues. You may or may not know I was kind of a public personality within this little region, and so we had to relocate because I had people coming by my house yelling, screaming. It just wasn't safe. So we were moving, and Samantha and the kids were already in Austin, Texas, where we live now. And I had to basically move our 4-bedroom house by myself. Now, 6 months earlier, when I was at the top of my game in the ministry, I would have had 50 or 60 people helping me. I'd have barely lifted a thing. Things had changed. It was now one of those moments. And so I had moved for 2 days. I had done all kinds of stuff, gotten rid of a million things. I mean, this was close to 10 years or so of living in this house and another house. And the movers had come that I paid an incredible amount of money for. And this was 10 some odd years ago. It was still incredibly expensive to move halfway across the country. The movers had finally taken the last trailer and drove off, and I was getting everything ready to give the house away. And everything was gone. I had packed my truck full of everything I could, and I was staring divorce and separation in the face. Samantha had communicated that she was moving to Austin and that wasn't sure if we were going to live together or not. I was going a few days later. And this was one of those soul shredding moments, a soul shaking moment. Everything was moved out, and I had this final moment, and I felt like God wanted me to do this, and I went and stood in my living room, and I can tell you right now what I was wearing, what it felt like, what it smelled like, everything. And I won't go too deep with that because I don't want to fall apart while we're filming. But I remember standing in this room, and my life literally flashed before my eyes. I saw my kids, who at the time were 5 and 4 and literally 5 weeks old. But I saw my older kids running around. I saw the memories. I saw them taking a bath in that side of the house. I saw where they both lived in the same room, and then they had separate rooms. I saw meetings. Everything was swirling, and I just began to shake. I was terrified. I was desperate to be with my kids again. I still kind of resented Samantha, and I still was struggling. I wasn't healthy. I wasn't sober. I wasn't completely present. And I'll come back to that. But this was a moment that I knew I needed to have. And if you're an unfaithful spouse, I hope you've had a few of these moments, and I hope you have more. I hope you stand in a room and shake. I don't hope that you lose your house or any of that, but I hope you have a moment where you shake, whether it's in your car or in your house or at your office or in a counselor's appointment or at an EMS weekend. But you've got to have these moments. And here's a few reasons why. Number one, for me, I needed that moment because in that room I shook and it woke me up. I couldn't rush through it. I couldn't drink a cup of coffee, have a shot of whiskey. I couldn't do anything to numb the pain. At that moment, there was no medication. It was simply, this is your life. This is what you've done to your life. This is where you've put yourself. You can't run from this moment. You have to absorb it. You have to stand here and embrace your life. You can't keep living in denial because you have two choices. You can accept your reality and then confront it and start to heal, or you can rush through this moment and pretend that it's not hitting you as hard as it really is. And I don't think God was going to let that happen that day, because it really defined me. I stood there uncertain about everything, my kids, my marriage, my life, my future. And it really stopped me and woke me up. Number two, it taught me to be present. And in AA, a wonderful organization that I fully believe in 12-step programs and the 12-step process, but in AA, and I won't get too in-depth about it, there's something about being present. It's about being aware. It's about being mindful. It's about living one day at a time. And for those of you that are in recovery, sometimes it's 1 hour at a time. But in this moment, I was having to experience a shift in the way I was going to live, and that was going to be being present, absorbing what was happening, understanding that I was now making choices every day. How I responded to Samantha, how I responded to my kids, how I responded to the uncertainty of my future, how I responded to whether or not I was going to try and go back to my affair partner, how I was going to respond to life right now. It scared the hell out of me. Number three, I realized like never before there was a lot at stake here. I had medicated my midlife crisis, my struggle, my confusion, whatever, with my affair partner, and she was gone. I wasn't drinking at that time. There wasn't a way to medicate at that moment, and at that season. I had to understand that there was a lot at stake. This was real life. This was adulting at its finest. There's a lot at stake for you right now. If you're a betrayed, you probably know that more than the unfaithful, for the most part. But I want to tell you both, there's a lot at stake here. Don't act rashly. Don't play games. Don't try and manipulate your spouse. Get help. Get the right help. Because there's a lot at stake. And if you go through this with a mentality that you used as an unfaithful spouse during your affair or what have you, if you let bitterness be your guide, if you let resentment be your guide, if you let anger and revenge be your guide, I'm telling you it's going to hurt even more. Embrace this moment. Go as deep as you need to go. Allow your soul to be shaken so that you can be changed and transformed the way that you so desperately need to be.